Out here at the home yard today. This is at my house where I live, out sitting out front. It's probably our most filled up yard. There's a lot of big hives here. We're just finishing up checking out bees this weekend. Got, like I said the other day, it's a tedious job being a commercial beekeeper, doing the same thing for the third week in a row. There'll be some new things to see, but for the most part, just the same old things over and over. Just gonna look at these top hives. We're gonna start moving them off this weekend. You get to see some of that. And checking supers, adding supers where needed. We got a big flow started up. Matter of fact, here's a swarm over here. I don't know where they're landing at, but there's, you can see it, there's a swarm gathering up. There they are, gathering on this limb right here. We'll box them up in a minute. That swarm over there, I went through some of these top boxes. I found a box here that don't have very many bees in it, and it never got queen right. So I'm gonna move that swarm into this box. I'm just gonna I'll try to just go shake them off. Probably just cut that limb off actually and bring it over here and shake it off in this box is what I'll do. And see how many stays. But probably the best way to do it is just set this top box off, go and set it over there up under the limb or as close as you can, and check them down on it, and just leaving it over there. All the bees wind up going in that box, but we'll just cut the end of that limb off, bring it and shake it on top of these and close them up. And we'll have the queen in there anyway, and most of the bees. We've got a higher count of these hives above double screen board that hadn't got queen right this time. That's because we had a good break in the flow. About the time that we pulled our nucs out of these and re-queened them with cells, or put cells in them to be re-queened, had a good stop in the flow, and that decreases your success of getting hives queen right, sometimes dramatically. Anytime you're re-queening a hive, whether it be with a cage queen, even just a walk-away split, putting queen cells in, anytime you're doing that, putting feed on the hive will increase your odds of getting that hive queen right, especially when there's no flow going on. Sometimes it can be a dramatic change. So it's always better to put feed on hives when you're getting them re-queened, or when you're making your split for the first time. This is my self starters. Been using through the springtime to put my grafts into, start my cells, and then I would move them into a stronger hive above a excluder. These would be queen right hives, and I would have a deep box above the excluder and move them into there after 1 or 2 days. But I quit grafting for a little while, so the last time I grafted, I left one queen cell in each one. There was 6 there. I just used one of them, but I just left a queen cell in each one, and what I'll do, it's time for them to be queen right or not now. I have been through them, checked them. They're not all queen right, but some are. As I go through the yard and find either these double screen boards, the hives above these double screen boards, or a colony on the pallets down below, find one that's not queen right. Now that these are queen right, I just take one of these and place it into, pull 4 or 5 frames out of the hive that's not queen right over here, and move these into it to make those queen right, and uses up these nucs here while keeping my hives, my good hives queen right, the ones that's going to stay on the yard. So that keeps me from having to move these nucs that's sitting on a pallet here or somewhere else, and also gets my hives queen right. So accomplishes 2 things at once. Well, the swarm has moved to the ground. They were on the limb right in there on that limb. and have moved to the ground. So I'm assuming as they started to pile up on that limb, a lot of times they'll, you know, that queen will be in that wad of bees, and they'll start to pile up on each other. And if there's not enough structure there to support them, they'll kind of just drip off in wads. And probably what happened there is that one of those drip wads of bees that dripped off had the queen in it. She landed on the ground right there, and that's where the swarm moved to. So we are going to take the box off and just set the box on the ground with the entrance right there at the swarm on the ground, and they will march right into that box, most likely. We're about to find out. All right, I've got that box. The bottom's just a double screen board where it was sitting on top of the supers on the hive below. This is a very small swarm here. I don't think this is all of it. Maybe the rest of the swarm moved off. Maybe a queen in here, and there may not be. We'll give them a chance anyway. But, I just pulled this. This was a split above a double screen board. I just pulled the double screen board off with the box for the, to act as the bottom. And we'll give them a chance to move in there. Give them a place to go, a box right there, and they will move into it. You can see the bees starting to scatter around. As soon as I set that box there, they start to travel into it. You can see that cluster of bees starting to move into that box. I'm gonna grab the inner cover and put it on top of this box to close it up. We'll leave this box sitting in place long enough for that swarm to all move in there, and then we'll set it back in the spot where we had this box at. I'm going to show you what I do in a situation with a land worker that I found. This is one of those splits above a double screen board. This was made up on May the 6th. This is June 13th, I believe, 14th. Open it up. They never got queen right. This is first frame with brood on it I found. See all that popcorned out cap brood. You'll also notice those queen cells there, open and cap queen cells on that frame. As you go in, you'll most likely start to notice a lot of eggs laid up just randomly all over the place. A lot of eggs piled up in single hives. This hive's been laying workers for a while. They got a lot of cap brood in there, but I'll tell you how I handle that. It's a little different depending on the situation. These, as time goes on a little bit, maybe another week or so, they will typically stop trying to make queen cells, and seems like they just kind of accept their status and accept that land worker as a queen, and will carry on until they find their population finally just dies out. But if I go in and find, especially if I find queen cells, that's kind of my marker to determine what I do with them. If I pull frames out and I find queen cells, they are still trying to make a queen. They know that they are not queen right and are still trying to produce a queen. So with that situation, I'll put a queen cell in or use a queen right nuc to just requeen them, and that works most every single time. Matter of fact, I've got a pallet over there. I don't know what the deal was with that last pallet on the end, but all four of those splits on top became, they were queenless and became land workers. I put a cell in each of those four, and all four of them a month later are queen right at this point. So they can't, land worker can be made queen right without any other steps or precautions. Just simply putting a queen cell in. If they're a young land worker hive, and I look for queen cells. If I open this up and I find all that popcorn out brood, all that, when I say popcorn, it's this protruding brood cells that signifies that those are drone, cap drone brood cells. So it's all all drones laid in there. So with queen cells, I will attempt to requeen it. If there are no more queen cells in there, typically that population is going to be reduced a good bit. All I do is remove whatever separating that hive, remove this double screen board, set that hive straight down on top of these supers right here. And those bees will come up and kill those land workers and take care of that land worker hive. The rest of the bees in there will just become part of that hive. And eventually the brood that's in this land worker hive will emerge out. And this will possibly be stored with honey, or if not, either way it's going to get pulled off when we pull honey and tended to then. But yeah, that's the way that I handle land workers. It works really good. If this ain't sitting on a hive, sitting on a pallet by itself somewhere, just pick it up, move it onto a stronger hive, just set it directly on top. If you don't want to set it on top of your supers, pull your supers off, set it on top of the bottom brood chamber, however you want to do it. But wherever you put it, if you add this land worker hive to a queen right hive, that queen right hive will take care of that land worker hive and correct it. Then later you can pull that box back off and make a split into it and start again if that's what you want to do. But that is the best way that I believe to handle a land worker hive. I've talked about this situation right here, I know in one or two prior videos, but this is what you would call a walkaway split. This was an established split that I made earlier in the season, but I needed a queen and I pulled it from this hive right here. This is a single box hive above a double screen board. I pulled the queen out of here about 4 days ago. So in 4 days you want to come back. If you're not adding a queen cell, if you're letting them make their own queen, come back 4 days later and you want to mash down most of the queen cells. I either leave one or two, I usually leave one. It is so hot right now that heat can affect your queen cells. With the temperatures we're having, I'm gonna leave 2 queen cells just in case. I mashed down the other cells on this. You want to mash down all of the cells that are capped off because those are made with older larvae. That's the reason they're already capped and you're left with some that are open. I left one open cell right there on that side of that frame. There's also a nice looking open cell right here on this frame, and I mashed all the rest of the cells. There were a couple of cap cells and some more open cells. I've done that I've been through most of these frames so far. And just go through and find, you need to shake the bees off. No need to worry about a queen, she's not in here. So just shake the bees all off. And you're shaking those bees off to make sure that they're not covering a queen cell that you're going to miss. There was a good group of cells there. I mashed all those down. A couple on that side there. There was probably 20 cells made in this hive. There's some more right there. I'm going to mash all those cells down. If you got any more queenless hives anywhere, any splits you made that didn't get queen right, these frames like this right here would be perfect to move over to that hive and give them another chance to have a virgin emerge out and get the hive queen right. We don't need them. We're gonna just eliminate the rest of those. We've left 2 in, eliminating the rest, and that's all of them. One more little one right there. They've started. That's it. So still a very good populated hive. So that big of a population in there with multiple queen cells, they are going to swarm multiple times with those virgin queens as they emerge out. And as long as you eliminate those cells down to 1 or 2 cells, that'll stop them from swarming out with those virgin swarms. Those are called after swarms. But that eliminates it from happening. You need to be sure and do that every time you make a walkaway split. Today's been a very hot day. It's been tough to work out here today. But you can see all the bees that's moved out of the hive. This is not abnormal. People that are new beekeepers see this and assume there's issues with the hive, but this is completely normal. It's a natural function of the hive. It's one of the ways that they manage temperature in a hive. That brood needs to stay at within a certain range of temperature. And when there's a lot of bees in the hive, that it's hard to keep that temperature managed. There are bees still inside the hive that are fanning air through the hive, drawing air circulation through the hive to keep the temperature correct. But it makes it a lot easier when that hive's not as congested with large numbers of bees. So this is what they do to correct that, is just move out to the front of the hive. And as the sun goes down and the temperatures start to cool off, those bees, they'll move back in the hive and cover the brood as temperatures drop down lower to a point where the brood needs to be warmed. But moving out of the hive and fanning air, drawing air through the hive, circulating air through the hive, that's how they manage their own temperatures. So this is a normal, completely normal function of the hive. It is June the 16th. We are on our last few hives of preparing these boxes for pulling honey supers out at, we call this the main yard. This is kind of a big holding area for us. It's the yard where we started out. We store most of our equipment here. Got a good many hives here. Kind of pull our nucs here to sell. Kind of stage them here. It's where customers pick them up at. Make some queens here. We got a lot of drone mating yards around this yard. That's our primary focus here, is to produce drones. We are about 2 weeks away. We are 2 weeks away from pulling honey supers. Our flow has been really good this year. We've had some ups and downs. This car go by. We have had some, I say ups and downs, we have had a really good flow. Flow's never solid, all the way through from start to finish. You have some good periods and you have some breaks in the flow. But we've been in a break for a couple of weeks up until last weekend, and started back with tallow last weekend on the yards we had tallow, and then the other yards I've been in this weekend that don't have tallow has had more nectar coming in than I've seen all season. And all I know that it could be, it's got to be sumac. I've seen some sumac blooming, hadn't paid a lot of attention to it, but there is a tremendous amount of nectar coming into these hives now. And that's the only explanation I've got. That's the only thing this late in the season without tallow that could be bringing in that much nectar. And we're going to finish up preparing these hives today and begin moving these hives above, these singles above double screen boards, moving them off. We'll add a few supers on today to the hives that are full, and that'll be the end of our preparations before we pull honey, starting in 2 weeks. The way we do our honey supers, we can't keep our, all right, start over. When we're looking at placing honey supers, if we were a smaller beekeeper and able to keep a closer eye on each hive, we would add supers at a later time than what we do now. But it really don't make much difference. If I was a hobbyist beekeeper and just had a few hives in the backyard and able to go and pop the top off and look at hives more often, this hive's got 2 drawn combs right here. Now we had to use some foundation in this one. Typically you would hopefully have drawn comb throughout the box, which would make the box fill up faster. But if I'm opening up the hive and looking and it's got 2 drawn out combs, the best thing to do is put the top back on that and allow them to fill up. If there's 9 combs in here, I would wait to 6, 7 frames or so full of honey and then add another one on. And that makes no difference whether you put the new super above or below. I don't think it makes any difference at all. But in our case, we can't just keep an eye and count frames every time we come through and keep that close eye on hives. So in this case right here, there's a good flow going on. This bee population is not as strong in this hive as most of these others here, but still there is a good population below the excluder. Hadn't moved the excluder down yet. It's still a double deep brood box. We're about to move it down. And doing that, bringing that, there's brood in that second box. When we move it up above the excluder, that will draw a lot more bees above the excluder, and they will draw these frames a lot quicker at that point. But still, in this case, with a good strong flow going on now, we move that brood up above the excluder, get those bees up above the excluder. They'll probably draw this before the week's over with, draw these combs out, and once they're drawn out, as long as that flow's still going good, they'll fill that up in a matter of probably 1 day with the way this flow is going right now. So we would go ahead and add another box, another super on right now, another box of empty comb or foundation, whatever we got. We are actually out. We've used up all of our drawn combs, so we're going to be just placing foundation. But whether that flow lasts long enough to get that full or not, it don't matter. That extra room, once you got a strong hive on there, that extra room does not make any difference. Those bees are still going to be up in that box. If they don't fill those frames up, at least maybe they get some more of those frames drawn out, and I'll be able to use next year. Well, that is a wrap. Getting hives prepared for harvesting honey. We're going to shift our attention now to getting these splits moved off of these double screen boards, moving them on the new yards, getting those out of the way so we can pull supers. I'll go through the process of showing you the steps that we do to set up new yards and get these hives moved. We still move hives by hand, so it ain't easy, but we get it done. I'll show you some little tips and tricks that we've picked up on the best way to set yards up, for us anyway. Things that we've learned over the years and make working them easier. There's nothing easy about keeping bees. Yeah, I've got my full suit on today. Today has been a rough day. It has been hot. I had to come back to this yard to finish up. Didn't quite get finished up yesterday. It's just too hot to stay in them all day. I had to break through the middle of the day and didn't get finished up. But came over here and got finished up, and this was the last yard. So we are finished up, ready to pull supers off, extract honey. We'll leave the excluders on when we extract. Bring a deep box after it's extracted out, sit back on top of the excluder. We'll let them clean that honey, what's the residue, what's left off of those frames, and those will be a good drawn out box of drawn out comb to start a split in. We'll pull honey in 2 weeks, which will be the first week of July, and we pull all the honey off, and we immediately start feeding some fairly light sugar syrup, maybe as thick as 1 to 1 the first time. And we will begin making splits immediately. about to start grafting again for those splits, and we'll make splits from the time we pull honey supers off up until the first week or two of August, and try to get a split over each colony, get them over a double screen board, and those will be overwintered and be great hives going into next spring. Those will be great honey making hives.